The president doesn't want us to be politically correct, right? So let's not be PC about this. Is the president trying to provoke a domestic terrorist attack with this Twitter rant, because only to prove himself right?
MSNBC anchor Thomas Roberts suggesting not once, but twice on the air that President Trump is purposely trying to provoke a domestic terror attack with his tweets. Meantime, Comcast, the parent company of NBC, closing the day in the red. Joining me now, let's bring in American Islamic Forum for Democracy President, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Good to see you, Doctor.
It's great to be with you, Liz. Thanks for having me back.
So Thomas Roberts found this idea thoughtful enough that he brought it up twice. But what exactly is the president's provocation?
It's an absurd, I mean, talk about a way to look at the world in which everything we do is caused by us. I would actually say we just finished 8 years in which our commander-in-chief rolling over and playing dead to the radicals has actually brought about more attacks. It is absurd to think that somehow a tweet or the president actually being offensive, forward offense rather than defensive, is going to cause more attacks. In fact, they respond to sheepishness, they respond to appeasement. That's what brings about more attacks. Yeah. And secondly, imagine if they told Ariana Grande that her naming her concert the Dangerous Woman Tour is actually what was offensive, and that caused more terror attack. That's absurd. We're a free society. We stand for what we believe in. We will push forward the equality of men and women and all our principles and put aside political correctness, as the president tweeted, because we have to take the fight to them with our ideas and not roll over and play dead.
Doctor, what did the British say to provoke by this logic of Thomas Roberts, what did the British say to provoke the attacks in London, or the French in Paris at the Bataclan attacks? What provoked it?
Well, it could be anything. It could be the fact that they were going to go to ISIS at the time. They said they were going to go launch and target ISIS militarily, which that would be absurd. It could be the fact that it was Bastille Day, Independence Day, that they were being themselves.
This is such a stretch. The point is, it's such a stretch to say that words are provoking attacks. I mean, it's a throwback to the out there theories that the 9/11 attacks basically were an inside job. And you know what, Doctor, we have Kellyanne Conway responding to Thomas Roberts' remarks on Fox this morning. I'd like your reaction. Let's take a listen.
Well, does he have a job today? I mean, that is really over the top, even by those standards. Think about what he said, and think about the accusation he's making. For people on TV to be saying what they're saying, a CNN anchor yesterday calling the president an expletive, Kathy Griffin, also of CNN, doing what she did last week, which is really over the top, and then blaming the Trump family. I mean, people are really losing their minds over this presidency instead of trying to cover the things that he's doing to help all Americans and really coming together. When you hear things like that and people still keep their jobs, it's truly remarkable.
Should Thomas Roberts apologize or be reprimanded? What do you think?
Absolutely. This is malpractice. We are facing a global threat, and their obsessive-compulsive disorder about focusing on President Trump and everything he says, and the radicalism that they manifest, is putting our country at stake. The world is facing an ideology. They're not here just because they can't assimilate. They're here because they are an insurgency, and they are attacking us when we are weak. We need to harness our power. It is. I put a plea to Ariana Grande and the celebrities yesterday on a video, and I said, listen, you have an opportunity to use this platform to unite us in a common ideology forward as the foundation of freedom against political Islam. Use that and have us join together, and not just appeasement. And the reporters really should look back and reflect at themselves what they're actually telling our country, as far as how weak they're leaving us.
Democrats are sticking to the terrorists as victims theory, that the terrorists are attacking the West because they, quote, feel alienated. Here's what former Secretary of State John Kerry said. Let's listen.
They've had a long-standing problem with respect to greater levels of alienation, a harder time assimilating into the broader British society, a lack of similar opportunity. So there are a lot of ingredients.
He's making it sound like it's the British or the West's fault. You know, Oxford University, they looked at terrorist degrees and their university degrees. 57% have elite degrees in engineering, medicine, and science. So this whole victim idea, what are your thoughts on that?
Liz, these are talking points from the Islamist movements. The guy they caught now from the Manchester attacks, his name is Mr. Butt. He was on a documentary on Channel 4, The Jihadi Next Door, giving interviews about why they wanted to dominate the West, defeat the West. He is beyond a known entity. He is somebody that was interviewed on a documentary and months later or years later now takes and drives a vehicle through vehicular jihad in an act of terrorism. So it is just absurd.
So
and
people
wonder
should be
where the
killed
voices...
because they're feeling alienated. Is that the logic? People should die because they're feeling, because terrorists are feeling alienated. Is that the logic here?
Their logic is that somehow, oh, everything is our fault. Everything must be something America or the West did, instead of the fact that these guys are global supremacists who want everyone to be under the rule of their Sharia law in the West and their interpretation of Islam, which we need to fight back and say they are theocrats in the 8th century that need to be defeated. And the way to do it is to, when people say we're the voices of moderate Islam, we're being suffocated by that kind of nonsense.
You know, Doctor, in the Philippines, ISIS militants filmed themselves smashing statues, setting fire to a Catholic church. Are these the actions of people who are, like John Kerry said, just having a harder time assimilating?
They want nothing to. They reject assimilation. They want to conquer. They want to push their ideas upon every minority, every vulnerable population there is, and control the messaging and control the environment. So when they can control it by a majority, they do it in Syria, in the Philippines, wherever they have a majority population. When they're a minority, they sow terror and chaos to unravel us and have us collapse from within.
Dr. Zuhdi, Jasser, good to see you. Come back soon.
Anytime. Thanks, Liz.